Let us begin with the very heart and substance of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ followed his father Ibrahim. ثُمَّ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ, says the Quran. And then we revealed to thee, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ Ibrahim, that you also must follow the religion of your father Abraham. وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and there is no shirk in that religion. And so the first sunnah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is to avoid shirk. This is the foundation of the sunnah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, to avoid shirk. But he warned before he died. He warned that the time will come when we will be attacked by shirk. And it will be very difficult for us to recognize the shirk. Shirk is not only to worship other than Allah, to worship 2 and 3 and 4 gods. Shirk is not only to worship gods and goddesses. Shirk is not only to worship idols. Shirk is also to play God. Like he played Mass, he played God. And no one playing Satan. Shirk is also to attempt to take over from Allah. And assume for yourself the functions of Allah. He said shirk will one day attack you. But it will be difficult to recognize it. How difficult? As difficult as it would be to recognize a black ant on a black stone on a dark night. That's how difficult it will be. Who can recognize a black ant on a black stone on a dark night? You could have a PhD from UWI. It make no difference. The only one who can recognize a black ant on a black stone on a dark night is the one who have light to see. But this light doesn't come from a torchlight. This light comes from Allah. It's called Noor. And only if Allah gives Noor to you, only then will you be able to see. Otherwise, you have eyes but you can't see. You have ears but you can't hear. You have hearts but you don't understand. You're just like cattle, says the Quran. Are we living today in a world in which we are enveloped by shirk all around? In which we have been embraced by shirk everywhere? And we are in shirk and yet singing qasida in praise of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the question I ask. Well, let us begin with salat. You cannot perform salat without saying Allahu Akbar every time you move. Every time you move, you have to say Allahu Akbar. Huh? Can you perform salat without saying Allahu Akbar? No. What does Allahu Akbar mean? Huh? Allahu Akbar means Allah is supreme. Allah is sovereign. Allah is supreme. Allah's authority is supreme authority. Allah's law is supreme law. That is Allahu Akbar. If you recognize someone else as sovereign other than Allah, that is shirk. If you recognize someone else's authority as supreme over Allah's authority, that is shirk. If you recognize someone's law as supreme law over Allah's law, that is shirk. Anyone is free to challenge me at any time, stop me and challenge me. Yes, because this lecture is being delivered for generations to come. So challenge me if I'm wrong. And so we established Allah's sovereignty as Muslims. Whenever we took control of a land, we made Allah Akbar in that land, that Allah was recognized as Akbar in that land, wherever we took control of territory. So Allah was sovereign in that land. And Allah's authority was supreme in that land. And Allah's law was the supreme law in that land. And that land was called Darul Islam. And we appointed a leader who was called a Khalifa. In English, Caliph. He's also known as Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers. He was also called the Imam. 3 titles: Khalifa, Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam. And that state was called the Khilafah. And in that model of a state, Allah's sovereignty was recognized. Allah's supreme authority was recognized. Allah's law was recognized as supreme law. And Allah's law was enforced. Is Allah recognized as Al-Akbar anywhere on the earth today? No. Not even 1 square inch of Allah's earth today recognizes Allah as Al-Akbar. Not even 1 square inch. Does anyone lose any sleep over that? Does anyone weep over that? Do any tears fall from the eyes over that? That Allah is not recognized as Al-Akbar in even 1 square inch of the earth today? No? We sing in Qasida. The Khilafat was destroyed in 1924. By whom? By those who came before us, the Jews and the Christians. A particular part of the Jewish and Christian world which was white. Euro-Christian and Euro-Jewish. They destroyed the Khilafah. And if you want to read the story of how the Khilafah was destroyed, I have written the history. It is downstairs in my book. But I found about my Muslim people in Trinidad, they hardly ever read. I travel around the world, and I find Muslims around the world thirsty for knowledge, hungry to read, pursuing me wherever I go for knowledge. But my own people, I have found them needing a wake-up call. We don't know how to get them to read. We have 4 books for you downstairs today. 4, which are free of charge. If you already have it, don't take another copy. But if you have not had a copy, go downstairs and get one out of it. 4 books which are free of charge for you to read tonight. The Khilafah was destroyed in 1924. What was it that replaced the Khilafah? Something that came from those who came before us, the Jews and Christians. What is it called? It is called the modern secular state. What is the modern secular state? The modern secular is shirk with capital letters. The modern secular state says we do not recognize Allah as Al-Akbar. No. The state is Al-Akbar, not Allah. Sovereignty belongs to the state, not Allah. Supreme authority resides with the state, not with Allah. And the highest law is the law of the state, not Allah's law. Is that shirk? Allah could make it haram, but the state can make it halal. Like they made gambling halal in this country. The P&M, in the 1960s, I remember I was a boy growing up, and they passed legislation in this country to make lottery halal. And then they start the national lottery in the 60s. And we had some Muslim ministers of government, and they said, we ain't voting on that. We abstaining. My question is, if this government of which you are a part makes halal what Allah made haram by legalizing lottery, legalizing gambling, for example, is that shirk? And by continuing to be a part of that government and supporting that government and voting for that party, would you be entering into shirk? That is my question. If you differ with me tonight, stand up and say so. Challenge me if you do, if you wish. I go to Surah At-Tawbah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Jews and Christians. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم وما أمروا إلا يعبد الله. They took their priests and their rabbis as lords and gods beside Allah, the Jews and the Christians. And they did the same thing with the messenger of Allah, the Messiah, the son of Mary. But they had never been ordered other than to worship Allah, the one God. La ilaha illahu, there is no God but Him. Subhanahu amma yushrikun. Glory be to Him. How far removed is He from this act of shirk of theirs, of taking their priests and rabbis as lords and God beside Allah. So a man came to the Prophet and said, O Messenger of Allah, how could Allah say such a thing? That the Christians and Jews has worshipped their priests and their rabbis as gods. They don't do that. No. To which the Prophet replied, and he asked, did they not make halal what Allah made haram? That is their shirk. Did they not make halal what Allah made haram? That is their shirk. And did the people not follow them into it? That is their shirk. And so I ask the question tonight on the 12th of Rabiul Awwal. If a priest or a rabbi legalizes what Allah made illegal, and that is shirk, well, if the government do the same thing, would it not be shirk? Yes. And so the whole total political system around the world today Everywhere you turn in the world today, it's the modern secular state, which is supreme. Everywhere you turn in the world today, it is the law of the state, which is supreme. Not even in Saudi Arabia, in Makkah and Medina, is Allah's law supreme. No. Example. All the states of the world today, all, are members of the United Nations organization. With the exception of Indonesia, which left for a while and then came back. And so Indonesia is now back again. With the exception of Switzerland, which is trying to get in. Switzerland stayed out for a long time, but they're trying to get in now. So all of mankind are members of the United Nations. Well, guess what the United Nations Charter says? In Articles 25 and 26. It says that Allah is not Al-Akbar. Yes. Yes. You don't read it. The United Nations Charter says in Article 25 and 26, Allah is not Al-Akbar. Why? It says that supreme authority in the world. Supreme authority in the world. In all matters pertaining to international peace and security resides with the Security Council of the United Nations. Their law is the highest law. It can have no law higher than them. That is shirk. And so I have presented to you tonight the stark evidence, the bitter evidence, that we are living now with shirk all around us. But nobody seems to be losing any sleep over it. Nor is anyone making any effort to try to get out of the shirk by struggling to recover the Khilafah, to take control of territory somewhere on the face of the earth and make Allah's law supreme in that territory. Of course, the United States will fight you, and Britain will fight you, and France will fight you, and Russia will fight you, and the whole world will fight you. They will never allow you to do it. But that should not prevent you from making the effort. At least we can say to Allah, we've made the effort. Is there a single Jamaat in this country, even one, which is making an effort to teach the people of the importance of restoring the Khilafah? What's going to happen when Imam al-Mahdi returns? Of course, the Khilafah will be returning. And the modern secular state is going down in the garbage bin. And that's hardly another 50 years away from now. But in the meantime, if we just sit down and do nothing about it, we don't talk about it, we don't educate each other about it, we don't lose any sleep about it, we don't have any pain in our heart over it, that around us there is shirk, and we make no effort to get out of it, what will Allah do to such a people? The shirk is not only in the state, the shirk is not only in the government. You go and vote for PNM, or you go and vote for the UNC, it's the same shirk. The same shirk. Because when UNC was in power, they also had state lottery, national lottery. They also recognized the law of the state as the supreme law. So they were also in the shirk. So it makes no difference, PNM or UNC. Same khaki pants.